Hello and welcome back to the Artisfy Codecast. Let's get coding. So where we left off yesterday was, let's check the GitHub log. So we wrote some tests for the when code in the Switch.js library. We fixed some bugs and added some new functionality. The new functionality was this really cool thing where we're now passing in the action object as well as the switch object when the callback is called. So now we have all the action data, including the context, the element, the type, and we have all the switch data, including the name, whether it's auto or not, the custom name, the element, and whether it's on or not. And those are all really awesome things to know. So now let's move on to the next part. The next thing I want to do, which is specking out the new copy layout code. And so if we look at our list of all widgets, we can see that the copy layout code looks like this. And I can tell you that let's see. So this is going to be so this is a little bit confusing. So data copy position copies the current element's position onto the element that is selected with this selector. Okay, so target to copy position to, and then X offset, and then Y offset. Okay, so that's that one. And then the dimensions is, I think, a little bit different. So if we look into the bundles and we search for dimensions, yeah, okay. So, okay, no, it's not that different. I thought it was going to be like reversed, but it's actually just the target to copy dimensions to, and then it can be like height, width, or both. Okay, so then if we want to use both at the same time, it's going to be all of these, and then this, except the target is going to be last. The second target is going to be last. And the reason for that is the I don't know how to arrange this data. I don't know, e.g. No, I'll say IE. Okay. So the so the last one is like the most optional one, right? So for this one, we definitely want this because this is going to be just the target, the default target for both of them, right? So like if we're doing data copy layout, we're doing we're copying the position and we're copying the dimensions. And so this first selector is going to stand in for both of these. So we're going to have we're going to copy the position onto this. We're going to have an offset of 0 and 0. We're going to copy both the height and the width. And then if we leave, that out, then we're going to copy everything onto this element. So that's a pretty common case, which is why I wanted to be able to leave out the last one. And that way I'm not going to have an argument that says like, none or something. Whereas, if I had it, here, if this a target element was here and then the both was here, then I would have to have like none because, maybe I would want to change this to height or change it to width. Okay, so this is confusing me a little bit. Data copy layout 1, 0, 0, neither, and 2. So we want to copy neither the height or the width, but our second selector is going to be 2, and this selector represents the element to copy the dimensions to, but we're saying we don't want to copy the height or the width. So I think I need to check real quick. So I'm pretty sure this is nonsensical, but I just want to make sure that that's true by going into the current code. So that's going to be in public, JavaScript, modules, copy position, I guess. And then we're going to get the, so we have the dimensions. And then we have copy attributes. Okay, so we need to find where copy attributes is. It's in, it's in DOM utilities, of course it is. Okay, so it's in here, and then copy attributes is going to set the top and the width and the height. So that's all it's doing, is the top, the left, the width, and the height. So this actually doesn't make sense. So I'm going to just delete this. And let's put like an example here, and we'll say, like for the first argument, right? This isn't normally how I would do it, but I'm just going to say, like, you know, ABC or XYZ, and then like any selector. 2 is going to be minus 30 or 40 or 42. Any, I could say any real number, I guess, but I'll just say any integer. It could be any real number though. And then I guess we'll just do the same thing for this. I guess we can change this a little bit. And then 4 is going to be height or width or both. Okay, and then 5 is going to be the same thing as this. And the reason I want to specify this is that, you know, this cannot be, it can't be like none, right? It can't be the string none. It has to be a positive, or negative integer, or 0, right? And then this is the same thing. This has to be one of these strings. It can't be neither. So if it could be neither, this is where I would specify it, right? And this is just to help me think through it ahead of time. And I want to make this as simple as possible to parse so that I don't have to deal with, you know, something down the line. And this again, right, this first one, that's never going to be none, right? Because the only case I would use data copy layout in is if I wanted to copy both the position and the dimensions. If I just want to copy one, I would just use this, or I would use this, right? Okay, so let's move these here. And then down here I'll have like these examples. Okay. Yeah, and then same thing here, and I'll say X offset, And same thing here. Y offset. And I guess like dimension name to copy. And then same thing here. Okay, and now instead of saying EG, we can say like parameters, or yeah, I guess that works. So like parameter details. Okay, so that works for me. I really didn't want to mess up this list of widgets with like documentation strings, but I'm okay with it in this case. I did have like another file inside of my brainstorms file where I'd say like I have like the list of all widgets, yeah, and then I have the thoughts on all widgets, and so like I have like more documentation about it all. Yeah. So like this, for example, right? Last argument is optional. It defaults to the first argument. That would be a good thing to have in there, right? Yeah, because I just like having like a simple list where I don't have to think about it, right? It's just, yeah, so let's do this. Let's actually have a file for thoughts. That was just my plug falling. That's fine. Okay, so now let's bring our old thoughts into here. And the unfortunate thing about this is that some of the attributes have changed a little bit. Like this one has changed to save, for example. And I don't think I'm using this. I think like, please remove this. I don't think it's necessary. Okay, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself because this is the IO library, which we haven't quite got into yet. Okay, so now let's copy over like our new documentation. To like here. And I guess we can move these up. I should have thought about that. Okay. Okay, so that works. I wish there was like a better way of like showing all of this in a way that like, you know, kind of highlights this part, right? And then the rest is kind of details. I mean, I could put like a couple hashes before it, I guess. That could help. I don't know. It's not great. So I guess like maybe like a double space below it and or before it, and then like a single space. Geez. Yeah, single space like right after it, and then the explanation, and then a double space after each one. That could do it. And this is now called switched on. Okay, and then we got IO. I don't know why I have these things and then these things. They seem like the same thing to me. So I don't know. I'll delete this. Okay. And these don't have any explanation, so I'm not going to separate them. And I'll do that. This is like more confusing. I don't know. Okay, so now we kind of maybe have a better understanding of what's going on with this stuff, because we can read through this and we can be like, okay, you know, after I've implemented this thing, did I cover all these cases? Is it doing, what I thought it did, what I thought it should do? Oh, geez. That sucks. I'm sorry I just coughed so loudly. That was, yeah, probably awful for you. Okay, so yeah, I mean, half the time when I'm going to go back through this documentation, I'm going to be like, oh no, I decided against that, right? But a good half of the time, I'm going to go through this documentation, I'm going to be like, oh, I forgot about this part, or, this was a really good idea. And, we've done that before in our earlier code with Switch.js, which is why we added this new feature, with the switch object and the switch action, is because we had, before we had, spec'd out all these return values, and we weren't, giving them to ourselves, and now we are. So that's like a really good example of like when I've gone back to the documentation and been like, yeah, I really should have that information. Okay, so now we have the list of widgets, and let's start implementing this new stuff. So first of all, I'm just going to say like added new docs, and then let's push that. We don't need the switch anymore because we're done with that for now. I don't need that right now. I'm going to need that. I'm going to need that. This is something that's coming up soon, and we'll get to that really soon. Okay, and this is our to-do. This is our bundles page for Artisfy, which we're going to look at soon, and this is our example switches, which we don't need right now. Okay, so let's go into copy main, and let's go into copy. And if we open up the console, we should get hello from copy. Okay, perfect. So we're importing copy position, which right now actually does something. And we're importing this stuff from DOM-utils. So it should maybe pretty much work. Now the problem with this is that I don't really like the syntax. This is the syntax currently, and I need to have a class of JS position on it. And what I would rather do is replace these all this stuff with one attribute, ideally, and one attribute, right? Because it's either going to be the one that combines both of them, or it's going to be, one or the other, copy to the dimensions or copy the position. I guess there is maybe a case where like I want to copy the position onto one element and copy the dimensions onto another element. I don't think that is really going to come up. So, and as far as this code goes, it's a lot less precious to me. So as like the old widget.js code. So I've like saved the old widget.js and like saved the old test for that. I don't really care in this situation, so I think I can just overwrite a lot of this stuff. Let's see. So these are these DOM utilities. Okay, so I guess for now what I'm going to do is keep the code, right? Because even though I don't care about it, so whatever happens to it is fine. I do want to use it as kind of a base for this new code. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is, I guess, import Bling. So this is kind of like a jQuery placeholder. It gives us this, and this is query selector all, or this is query selector, and this is query selector all. And then let's watch the body for a click on JS position, and we can see if we go into the Bling library, we have this crazy on method. And this sets itself equal to window.on, which sets itself equal to a function that takes event name, event context selector, and event callback. And I guess I checked the arguments length, but I could equally just check, like, if there's no event callback, then set that event callback to the event context selector, because it only requires two arguments, the event name and the callback, but then it has a context selector also. And if it's just the event name and the event callback, we do the simple case, which is just on this element, add an event listener with this name and this callback, and then else if, I don't know, I guess I'll leave the arguments length thing there. We do this, add event listener, event name. Okay, so this is going to be like if the event is on like another element within it, and it like bubbles up. So say it's like a click event and you click on a button, but you attach the on event listener to the body, then we're going to get the element which is the target, and then we're going to do a for loop where we check to see if the element is if it exists, and if it doesn't equal the current element's parent node, right? So say we're listening for the event on the body, and then we're doing this loop, and we loop up, and then we get to the body. If the body's parent node is the same as this element's parent node, we're going to stop the loop. And then we set the element equal to the element's parent node after each iteration of the loop. So we check to see if the element matches the event context selector, which is going to be something like button or whatever. If the element matches the selector, call the event callback and stop and break the loop. This doesn't make sense to me. But let's see. Okay, so if the element matches the selector, call the event callback. So then we call the event callback with setting its context to this, and we create our own custom event object with a target, a current target, and prevent default. And that's because the event object is not a real object, and you can't really extend it, and you can't replace any of the keys or values on it. So I decided to just create this custom object which has all of the attributes, all of the keys that I normally use, which is target, current target, and prevent default. And then, okay, so stopping the loop, we're stopping it as soon as it matches. So I think it's going to work in most cases, because in most cases you're not going to have a button inside of a button, for example. But it's not in line with like what should actually happen with with calling this. It should continue to loop through the rest of the elements. So I am going to remove this. Okay, so that's kind of sad because it's making the code slightly less efficient, but it is also making it a little bit more robust, which I guess is a good trade-off and one that, you know, I usually like to make. So this is the for loop. Okay, that works for me. Yeah, and then if we call on a node list, it's again going to check the argument's length, which I guess it doesn't really have to, right? The event callback, it sets the so if the argument's length. So I do the same thing down here, which is super silly, because it's gonna, you know, if it's undefined and I pass it into element on, that should take care of it, right? Because I'm doing the same check up there. So I set the callback equal to the context selector, and then I say this for each. Okay, so it looks to me like I can just do this for each element on blah blah blah, right? And I can probably even make this a one-liner. And then I can delete this. And that should work the same, right? Because if I'm not passing in the callback, I'm just going to have these two arguments. And then if I go, you know, to my on function up here, it's going to say, oh, arguments like this too. Let's do this one, right? So that's kind of nice to simplify that code. And let's add like a quick documentation string here. This allows us to do, for example, body. Okay, let's put this on a new line. Body on click, and then like, I don't know, I guess like action button. Sure, and callback. Okay. Okay, and let's, I think this is called, I think people call it like event delegation. Of using event propagation to handle events at a higher level. Okay. So let's say like support event delegation. Degradation. Okay, delegation. Okay. And then we'll have, like on the new line, we'll have e.g. Okay, allows us to support event delegation. For example, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that looks like it works now. Let's just see real quick when we match. Yep, so we're matching on the event context selector. So this can be multiple things. And if we look at our list of widgets, so we want to match on one of these 3 attributes. Do I want to put them all in a single string though, because I want to handle them all so differently? I guess I can do like an internal match also, or I could just set them up as separate matches. I think that putting them all in one string is fine though, because that way we're going this way we just have like one kind of parent function that is, you know, handling all of these, which is, you know, kind of nice. So like even if we split it out, you know, it's only after we've done, you know, some initial work. Okay, so I think that'll work. I'm not sure. Trigger element. Okay, and let's see real quick. So this is going to give us back the, So the event target is not going to be what we want, but the current target is going to be what we want because this is going to be the exact element that matches. And this should fire every time, right? So like if there is one of these elements inside of one of these elements, it's going to fire twice because now we're not, stopping the we don't have a break here anymore, right? We remove that, so now it's going to work properly. Okay, so so we do want the event current target. So we'll say like event current target, and that's not a function. Okay, so now we have the trigger element, and I'll just call this the trigger element. And what we want to do is, I think, figure out which one it is right away, right? So we're going to say like if lm matches this, do one thing. If it matches the next one, do another thing. But yeah, let's do what we've been doing before, which is just like what's kind of our our general thing. So I think like like we're going to talk through the code in abstract, and then we're going to write the actual code. So yeah, let's comment this out too, because I don't want it to like cloud my thinking. So let's see. So I just clicked on an element that wants to copy its dimensions and position onto another element. So I think, we kind of want to know, what is that other element? But, if it's copy layout, there's going to be, potentially two elements that it wants to copy things onto. We could handle that here as well. I think for the like parsing of these things. Oh, geez, I just thought of something. So yeah, we're using commas here, which we're not using anywhere else, right? In all of the switch name stuff, we're using spaces between the like main arguments. So is there a reason why like one of these might have a space in it? I guess, I don't know. Like we might have like one and then like button here, right? And then like this is a valid selector. I think not though. I think, if you really need to have a multi-word selector, just use an ID. I mean, you're only, I guess not, I don't know. I want to make it flexible. But yeah, it's kind of annoying to have commas here. It's not like super annoying. It's just not consistent with the other plugins. So yeah, I think I'm just going to delete these commas, even though it might cause some issues. Jeez. Okay, so I'll delete those, and we'll delete that. And as far as the parsing goes, I don't think we want to use our parsing library for this. We could. It might make sense. It seems like a little overkill, but I don't know. It's kind of nice to like have things properly named and to just be able to, yeah, call it. So even though it's a little overkill, I think it's fine. Okay, so I think what we want to do, so we could parse everything out, and what we would have is we would have, let's go into, where do we have our thoughts? So target copy position, target copy dimensions. Let's get that information. So target copy position, target. So I'm just spelling out everything that we're going to get from our data attributes potentially, because I want to see if, okay, what if we get them all at once, right? Like we pretend that like we're handling all cases at the same time. Copy position dimensions, and then we can like see if we can handle multiple cases at once. Like what if I could just like get all this information, you know, pass it into a single function, and that function is going to be like, oh, do I have this? Okay, then do this. Okay, do I have this? And it's like working with the data instead of working with the elements, which is what I want to do, you know, in general as quickly as possible, is kind of get away from, you know, dealing with the DOM and just deal with the data. So call this y offset, and then the last one we have is the thing like width, height, or whatever. So let's, where do we have this? Dimensions name. Okay, sure. Dimensions name. Okay. So this is the potential of like everything we're going to get from this, from one of these things. And so let's copy this in to our like parse helpers right now. And so we have the this is like getting super messy and super weird because like, for example, we shouldn't be making these parse functions within the same file that we define the parse library, and we also shouldn't have like tests at the, you know, test functionality at the top of the same library file. Like the test setup functions should be in a totally different file, and then like the main library code should be in a different file. The actual tests, which are commented out at the end, should also be in a separate file, you know, and then these parse functions should be in a separate file. But who cares for now, right? So we're gonna do, so we're gonna say like parse something something attributes. So first one is copy layout attributes, and this is going to be data copy layout, I believe. Let's just make sure. Data copy layout, data copy position, data copy dimensions. Okay, so data copy layout is going to give me so the dimensions one comes last. Okay, cool. So it's going to give me the target copy position, the x offset. I don't know why I'm writing these all out instead of copying it. Dimensions name. And I do kind of want to like make sure that this is exactly the same. Okay, and target copy dimensions. Okay, so that looks right. That looks like I didn't, you know, misspell anything. So the next one and the next one, we're going to have data copy position and data copy dimensions. And this first argument is going to be the same. These next arguments are going to be the same. So that's cool. And then target, this is going to be target copy dimensions instead. And we're going to have the dimensions name, and that's it. Okay, so that looks good. So let's take our little documentation string away, and we'll paste it there because we reorganized things slightly. So now we're going, if we do, so like parse attributes of current target, parse position dimensions attributes of current target, and then so we're definitely going to get this one back. We might get this back, we might get this back, we might get this back, and we might get this back, right? So the only definite one, no, we're not even definitely going to get this one, because if it's on, copy dimensions, we're not going to get that one. Okay, so there's no definite one we're going to get, but I think what we want to do is, like, if we have this, we want to, if we have this and we don't have this, then we want to copy this, this, and this onto this. And if we have this and we have this, we want to copy this and this onto this and this onto this. Right? So it's pretty simple. Okay, so parse the position dimensions attributes of current target. And then if we have this, but not this, so I guess like check if we have this but not this, or let's say like if we only have or I guess like check if we have this, right? So if we have this, then if we have, okay, sorry. If we have this, copy the dimensions from the current target, or yeah, the current target onto it. Okay. And then okay. And then, yeah, then we want, if we have this, copy the offsets, or like positions, from current target onto it. And then the last case is like, if we don't have this, then, copy the dimensions onto this instead. And is there like a succinct way of saying that or doing that? I'm sure there is. So yeah, okay. So it's this. If we don't have this, set this equal to this. And then yeah, and the other way we can, okay, so if we, and we have, I think this, and we have this. Yeah. I think that works. So what we're doing here, we're like setting the default target to be this one, but the problem with that is like we might not have passed in a dimension's name, in which case, we're just doing the copy position, right? And if we're just doing the copy position, we don't want to try to copy the dimensions, right? So like either, I think what we could do actually is like, let's just let the lower down functions handle it, right? Okay. So let's uncomment this and like write our like ideal code for this. So I think first of all, I just want to go into the switch.js code and grab this line and put it at the top here, and I want to get our new parse functions, and this is all named right, I think. Okay, and we're going to paste those in here. Oh, jeez. Okay. What? Okay, great. Jeez. Sometimes I don't know. Sometimes I don't know about myself. Okay, dimensions. That looks right. Okay, so now we paste those in there. Okay, so we should have these. It's too bad that we couldn't parse these using the same parse function, right? So parse layout attributes. Okay, so let's do how did I do this in the in the switch.js, right? So what did I call this like when I got it back? Actions list. Okay. Or like, can I look for another one? Switches list. Switches. All switches. Okay. So I guess I'm gonna call this I don't know, like parameters. It's not like a definite thing. Yeah, so I guess I'm just gonna call it like layout parameters, and then I'm gonna say like parse all layout attributes, and I'm gonna pass in this. So this is our dream function that's gonna combine the power of all of these. Okay, so if we don't have target copy dimensions, so if we oh, okay. Yeah. So I can just do this actually. That's cool. Okay, so now if we don't have this one, we're going to set it equal to this one. And then, okay, if we so now, yeah, I mean, unless we are not passing in anything for either one, we're gonna have it. I don't think I need to check here. copy the dimensions from the current target onto target copy dimensions. So we'll have like a function called copy dimensions, and it's going to be the one, the current element, the trigger element, and I just want to call this the source element, right? So this is a source element, and then the target copy dimensions, and then here we're going to say like copy position, and we're going to have the same kind of setup, but we're going to have it be target copy position. So the situation we might be in now is like this might not be, this isn't going to be defined if I am working with this attribute, right? If I'm just copying the dimensions, I'm just passing in the dimensions name and the target copy dimensions. So this will be skipped, this will happen, and this won't have this. However, if I'm doing just this one, right, I'm not going to have the dimensions name, but I am setting the copy dimensions variable to default to the position target, which I would be passing in if I was doing this. So the dimensions name isn't going to be defined. Which I also need to pass into copy dimensions. And copy position is going to need x offset and y offset. Okay. So either inside of this function, I can make sure that I have a dimensions name, right? That it has to be equal to something, although I would kind of like it to default. Yeah. So I think what I would like to do is have another variable, variable returned from here, which just says like copy type, copy, or like copy method. And this is going to be equal to like layout, or we can just say both. So we can say like position, dimensions, or both. And we're going to say like, so first of all, yeah, okay. So then we can just say like if copy method is equal to dimensions, so that's like one of the things we want to do, then let's copy the dimensions. You know, otherwise, you know, if copy method is, and I know I'm missing the both here, right? But copy is position, then we want to do that. And I guess we can just say like, or both, right? Yeah, okay. Or copy method equals both. Sometimes I like get this feeling in the back of my head like, oh man, I wish I had like grown up programming, or like, you know, had a mentor who like, you know, knew how to do this stuff really well. Because like for example, like these two if statements, I feel like there's probably like a super simple way of like condensing all of this into like just like I feel like I'm missing something, you know? Yeah. But that's fine. It's pretty explicit. Kind of makes sense. I mean, it does make sense. Okay. So now we've got this stuff. This is going to be like pretty standard. I think the Parcel layout attributes is going to be the harder one. Plus, it comes first. So let's write that first, and we're going to use the doc strings to like spell it out first. So we're going to say, so what are we going to get from, we're going to get the source element. And we want to return like all the parsed things. So so I guess like figure out which parser to use on it, or like get, you know, get the parser to use on it, and then or yeah, I guess we could say like figure out the parser to use on it, and the copy method, and then parse the attributes on the element. Yeah, and I'm curious, so like if I do document query selector all, and I do like div, yeah, there's no way of telling that like that was selected with div. And if I do like, I guess matches is the right example here. Oops, document matches div. Oops, okay. Document query selector. Let's just get the first one. I'll say like matches div. Yeah, okay. So it doesn't give me like any additional information. Okay, so parse the attributes on the element, return the attributes, and the copy method. That seems like pretty standard. So I guess we could have like some tuples, right? So like, or yeah, this seems matches. So I guess like we could say like parser lookup, or like, I don't know, parser match. This isn't great. And then inside of here we can have the selector, and then we could have the parser, and then we could have the like name. And so like this would be like this, and the parser would be this, and the name would be, what did I name it? Dimensions and position, and both. So it would be both. And I guess we call this like parser match, or like, I don't know, like lookup parser data. That works for me. And then this one is position. That's position, position, and then dimensions. And I'm always super nervous that I'm going to like misspell something, and it's going to lead me down a deep dark hole of debugging. Okay, so now we can do, I think, ideally we would get, oh no, okay, so we need to loop through them. So we need to, yeah, look up parser data. I usually like lookups just being big objects, and I wish there was a way that I could just pass in like the element, but there's not. Okay, so I don't know. I guess I'll just call it like a part. I don't know. It sucks. Parser. I don't know. We could just call it like parsers or like parser array. I don't know. That sucks. Okay. Well, maybe we'll rename it later. So we're gonna loop through these, loop through the parser array, and find the right one. What if it matches on multiple? Then we're gonna do both, I guess. So yeah, so we'll do a for each because we're not going to stop. And we'll do this, and I can call this parser data array, I guess. Parser info array? I don't know. Jeez. It's just a really bad name. Okay, so parser data. Why did that copy twice? Okay, so now we have the parser data. We're gonna see, if the source element matches parser data dot selector, then we're going to get the parsed attributes from using parser data dot parser on the source element. And I'm going to call this element data instead, because I want to add something to that. So I want to set the copy method equal to, this is awful, awful, awful code. And then we'll return the element data. See, okay, but the issue is that, okay, so say I have, say this matched on more than one, right? So like say I matched on these two. And then I, parse the source element for these two. And so now I'm going to get back an array. I'm not going to get back what I want. I'm not going to get back the single thing, right? I just want one target copy position, one, x offset, blah, 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 right? But now I might get back an array because I've decided that, this source element can be special, and have copy position and copy dimensions and even like another copy layout on it, which just complicates everything. I just wish that it would just have one, because that's the only case I really need it for, is just one. So like, why not build it for that? But it's pretty simple, I think, to just build it, so that it does everything. And then I don't have to come back and worry about it later. So, yeah. So this is in here. Parse the attributes on the element, and really what I want here is a map. And then, I don't know, we say like parse data. Okay. In an array. Ay. So this is going to be like, e.g., an array of objects, and it might have like any or all of these. Okay. Yep. Okay. So we put that in there. So yeah, and I'll put the copy method first. And I also want to rename this to copy method, but it doesn't make sense. So yeah, I'll just leave it like that. Okay, so this is going to return the element data. Okay, so we loop through the, no, I don't want this to be a map. What am I thinking? Like, honestly, what am I thinking? Okay, so I want this to be a filter, I think. Okay, so I'm going to loop through these. Ay. So stupid. Okay, so I'm going to just decide right now that I don't care if it has, well, it can't have two data copy layouts on it, okay? That's just not possible, because you can't have two data attributes of the same name on the same element. Okay, so that's decided. Okay, great. Okay, that was what I was worried about. So the parser data array, which is stupidly named, I don't know, I'm just going to call it lookup parser. Yeah, okay. So we're going to filter through this. And I think this is stupidly named too now. What is it really doing? It's getting the data or getting the layout data. Get layout data. I think that's better named now. Okay, so we're going to get the layout data. We're going to look up the parser. We're going to filter through each of these parsers. We're going to, have the parser data, which comes with a name, a selector, and a parser. We're going to see if it matches the selector, if the current source element matches the selector. If it does, we're going to continue. If it doesn't, just to be clear, we're returning false. Okay, so it's not going to be included in this array. Then we are going to parse the attributes on the element. So we're going to get the parser from the parser data. And I'm just going to call this parser, because we're looking up the parser, so it should just be called parser. Okay, so, and I'm going to make sure I'm spelling parser right. A program for parsing, great. Okay, so we're going to parse the attributes on the element. We're going to get the copy method and then return an array with all the parsed attributes. Okay, so now like at this point, when we just get the data, we potentially have these 5 things, right? Because if we're parsing the layout and we go to our helper function, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, those 5 things. So that's potentially what we're getting back. And then we're adding on the copy method because inside of this lookup parser, we have the name, which is both position or dimensions. And then we're returning this. So yeah, that, and we can return that. Okay, so that works for me. Okay, so now we have the parsed data. And now I'm going to rename this again. I'll get element layout data. Okay. Get, I think it's like list of element layout data. Okay, so we'll save this stuff for later. And we're going to say let list of element layout data equal that. And then here's the fun part. We're gonna loop through this. And we're gonna do destructuring. This feels totally crazy. Okay. Jeez. So that ends there, that ends there, that ends there. So we're destructuring all of this data to look like this, and now we can just slip this inside of there. And we're gonna say like loop through as a list here, loop through list of layout data and apply it. Or we'll just say, oops, okay. So if we don't have target copy dimensions, yeah, and this can go in here. Because this is only relevant if our copy method is dimensions. So here we're going to be like, check, or like if we're copying dimensions and if we're copying position. And we can just say check. Check if we're copying dimensions. Okay. So we'll create a little bit more space around here. Okay, so we're getting the copy method by matching the selector. So, if we match this, we're getting, both. If we get this, we're getting position. If we get this, if we match this, we're getting dimensions. Okay, so it is a little annoying. I kind of wish that I had just stuck with we can only have one of these things on a single element, because I really can't think of a case right now where I'm going to want to do both of these. And if I did, I would have even made the syntax a lot different. So I don't know. This is just kind of a little annoying how this turned out. But I think it should probably work. Well, I mean, we haven't finished writing it yet, but let's see. So we're checking if we're copying the dimensions, right? If we are, if we don't have, you know, a target, set the target to the position target. So if we don't have a dimensions target, set the target to the position target. And then copy the dimensions from the current target onto from the source element onto the dimensions target. Check if we're copying position. If we have a position target, copy the position from I'll delete this. Copy the position from the source element onto the position target. Okay. So that's pretty cool. I think, you know, maybe I've missed something here. We're going to look this up. We're going to parse. We're going to match it. If it matches, we're going to parse it. We get the element data. We add the copy method. We return this. Otherwise, we return false. Yeah, so I do think it's weird that we're doing a map and a filter. Because, yeah, this isn't going to work. This isn't going to, because a filter, you just return true or false. It's going to return the same array back to you based on whether you returned true or false. Yeah, so it doesn't matter what I return here. If I just return anything but undefined, it's going to keep that element. So this doesn't work, and what I want is a reduce. And so I'm going to have this, and I'm going to have like accumulator, which is my new favorite word for using in a reduce. And then we're going to say, you know, if it matches, we get the parsed data, and then we're gonna, no, we're just gonna push this in, and I think I have to return the accumulator. Is that true? Reduce. Okay. Executes a reducer function on each member of the array, resulting in a single output array. Callback. Function to execute on each element of the array, taking 4 arguments. Okay. I just want like a little bit more of a complicated example. Yeah, so they're returning it. I mean, I think that's obvious that you have to return it. Yeah, okay. Okay, so, sorry, I'm going to pause 1 second. There's some noise. Okay, so the noise subsided for a little bit. So I just realized it's kind of silly that I'm doing a reduce here. I think what I'm going to do is just like replace this with a for each, and then just have parsed data, equal to an array out here, and then as I go through this, I can just add, because reduce just like it's hard to understand. Like it's just like I think it's just naturally hard to understand what it's doing sometimes. It's not like super hard, but like this is easy, right? It's just like, oh, I have figure out the part to use. Okay, so like we have an array, like an accumulator outside of the loop, and then we're looping through each of these. We're seeing like, hey, does it match? If it matches, then parse it out, add a copy method, and push it into the accumulator, and then return the accumulator. That's so much simpler. So okay, now we are going to do the somewhat hard things of doing copy position and copy dimensions and copy position. So we don't need this. So we have a copy attributes function right now. So if I go into DOM utilities and I search for copy attributes, it's looking for offset data. It needs offset data, yes. I really don't like throwing errors. I've kind of gotten away from that habit. My feeling is that, like, I mean, user errors are great, right? But like for me, like when I'm programming the site, I don't want to like stop the user from using the site just because I made a mistake. So I feel like, if I make a mistake adding new functionality, have it fail silently. I like jQuery's approach. And, I'm bound to make mistakes. So, why have those ruin the entire user experience? Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just sloppy to surface errors in the console. But I mean, I could see cases where it might be good too. So anyways, we get the offset data, target elements, the dimensions for the target element, should copy width, should copy height. Okay. And then we loop through all the target elements. We set the style top and the style left. And then we do the same thing for the width. Okay, so this is pretty simple. I think this is the best way I know how to do this right now. I guess let's look up like you don't need jQuery, and also there was a cool site I saw the other day, but I can't remember it right now. So like, let's say like set CSS plain JavaScript. Okay, so go to, you might not need jQuery. We'll search for CSS. We have, yeah, okay, so we're doing it the right way. And if I look here, yeah, okay, so it's the same thing. Okay, so this should be the last part of this, and I don't think I'm going to get around to testing this right now, but we will test it the next time around. Okay, so, oops, I didn't copy this. Oh, what is this? Oh, that's not what I wanted. Oh, that's not what I want either. I want this. Okay, so if I go down here and I just copy these things, and what I have is this, and I'll paste both of them, hopefully. Okay, and then the semicolon, function and like that, okay. And then we have this code. So we have the source element and the target, and it's just going to be a single target. I'm not sure why I have multiple targets in the old code. Let me see. Target select. Oh shit. Okay, so I do have multiple targets because these targets. This is a so for the first argument, I'm passing in a selector. Okay. So target copy position, target copy dimensions. This all works fine. So that's awesome, right? Because yeah, it's going to work fine. So I have the data. The only thing is that I didn't realize is this is a selector and this is a selector. Okay, so now we're going, actually let's just write this out real quick. So get all the targets, the target elements using the, I want to see like, what is, or like query selector all. What do they call what you pass into this? I know they call it a selector, but a DOM string. Selectors. Okay, using the selector string. Okay, so we'll get all the target. So that, and then we're like loop through target elements, and then so I think. So let me see real quick. So if I go to the thoughts that I had about this. Yeah, okay. So can I leave off one of these, right? If I'm copying the position, can I like have this one and not this one, or can I like have just that? I think so. So I'm going to default to 0 on both of these. And then, so loop through target elements and set the new top position, set the new left position. Oh, what am I doing? Like seriously, what am I doing? This is not how you do it at all. Jeez, this is so annoying. I feel like such an idiot sometimes. Okay, so, jeez. So I have to get the position of the original element. So that's why I need the offset data, is because I get the offset data. Oh geez, where is it? This here, right? So I need the like top, left, right, bottom, and then I want to copy that onto the new one. I don't just want to like pass in a width and a height, or like a top and a left, right? That's not what I'm doing here. I'm copying it from one to the other one. Okay, so if I look at the original code, obviously I didn't understand it well enough. Okay, so I get the element offset, and I get the offset data, and then I get the shift data, and then I change the offset data based on the shift data, and then finally I copy the attributes. Okay, so get all the target elements. Okay, So let's see. Get the offset position, or get the position, get the new position data we want to set. And then get all the target elements using the selector string, loop through the target elements, set the new top position, set the new left position. Okay, so let's just write out our ideal code. So this is going to be a new position, and we'll say like get get I don't know, get like it's like a newly calculated position. So like get, I don't know, calculated position. That's not great. Position to copy, and then let's say like get position to copy, sure, whatever. And we're going to pass in the source element because we need to get its current dimensions, and then we'll pass in the x offset and the y offset. Okay, now we will get all of the target elements using the selector string and loop through them, and call this element. Okay. Okay. And we will set the new top position and the new left position by doing this. So we have the target element, and we can just call it target element, and we'll say position to copy. I think that's a little bit verbose when we can just do that. Yeah, this looks like so messy, right? Okay, so that works for that, and then for this function, get position to copy, we're going to use this. I'm just going to delete this. Okay, so get element offset with the original, how do we, we'll put that up here. Get element offset. So the first thing we want to do is like get the elements, the source elements, current offset data, change or like modify the top and left positions based on the new offsets, and return the offset data. Okay, so I'm also going to be getting this and this, and I can get the offset data. On here, and we'll say like, we'll just get what we want. So I'm going to look at the original again. So when we get this, we got the offset data, we modify left by adding it to whatever we passed in for the offsets, and then when we pass in the offset data to copy attributes, where is copy attribute? Oh, it's in the DOM utils. So if I go in here, offset data, yeah, okay. So it should just be the top. I think it's just the top and the left. So I think that's all I'm using from this. So let's just look real quick again. Yeah, okay. So sorry. Okay. So we have the client rect. We use top left. We get the right and bottom, which is great, and we get the width and the height, which is great. But we don't need that stuff. All we need is the top and the left. Okay, so let's get top and left from this. Let's set that equal to that, and left equal to that one, and we'll return on top. Okay. Okay, so the only problem now is that X offset and Y offset are going to be strings. Yeah, I didn't think about that. So yeah, when I get this parser stuff back, so this is fine that it's a string. This is fine that it's a string. This is fine that it's a string. But yeah, that's not. So when I get the layout data, I do just want to modify the X offset and the Y offset. X offset. Oh geez, what am I doing? Okay, so we're just going to parse int. So it is going to have to be an integer, not a real number. Okay, and that's silly. Yeah, I mean, if I run into trouble with that, I can always modify this later. You know, multiply it by 100, divide it by 100. Okay, so this is going to give me back numbers now. So that should work. And we're going to, you know, we're going to add this value to whatever this is. And this could be a negative number, which is fine. So that's going to give us the new left and the new top. And then we're expecting to get left and top back from this, which we can just say, right, left and top, and then we can just delete this. Okay, cool. So that should work. I do have to leave, I do have to go, so unfortunately we're not going to finish this today. I do need to work on copy dimensions, and that's going to require looking at this, it's going to require looping through this, and then copying it onto this. The only thing I'm worried about is that, so right now, when we copy the attributes, how do we get, yeah, so we're getting the offset data twice, right? We're getting it for the top and the left, and we're getting it for the width and the height. I would prefer not to call this function twice because it's a little bit expensive. Yeah, so there's a minor problem here, which is that if we, so see here, we're copying the dimensions. So yeah, what I would prefer to do here is get the offset data for the source element up here. So set data, and then copy dimensions. So does it require the source element is the question. No, only in the way that I need to get these new positions. And I think, yeah, it's going to be the same for the copy of the dimensions. Okay, so I really do have to go, but I'm just going to pass this in here, and I'm going to call this source element offset data. And I'm going to do that. And now this is unmodified, so we're going to say like top plus equals y offset and left plus equals x offset. Yeah, and I'm also going to do this. Yeah, so now I don't need this. Okay. Okay, so yep, that's all I'm going to do for now. So yeah, now I'm only getting the offset. So the problem with getting the offset is that I think it requires doing a redraw of the page. So like whenever you call like get bounding client rect, I'm not positive on this, but I'm pretty sure it's an expensive operation, as well as the page y offset and the page x offset. So I don't know. I think calculating that as little as possible is a good idea. Okay, so I'm closing up for now. Thank you for watching. Really appreciate it. Next time we'll finish off this function, test it a little bit, and then replace all of the stuff in Artisfy with this, and then we'll get started on our input-output widget, which I'm really excited about and have been thinking about over the past few days. Okay, see you later. Bye.